I have a simple mantra when it comes to making art. Create with your heart, and your hands will follow. I'm not a trained artist. I have no professional background in art. In fact, I don't even use a color wheel. But I do show up here in what I call my lab, and I experiment, I play, I make a lot of discoveries, and through the entire process of it, I heal and I grow. My name is Mansi, and I am a mixed media artist and a creativity facilitator for women. I love playing with colors, and you will almost always find my hands covered in paint, my clothes with splatters, and my table and my floor just always colorful. It's healing to me to be able to do finger painting, to create things for myself, because that's why I do art. It's for me. It's not for anyone else. It's not for social media likes. It's not for people pleasing. It's to bring my heart joy, to fill a hole that's been in my heart since I was a child, and to give myself that honor, that privilege, that grace of taking care. It's really a form of self-care and self-nourishment for me. And so that is the reason why I show up here every day and I make time for me. I was 19 when I was told by a distinguished panel of interviewers, they were the creme de la creme of the creative industry in India, that I clearly would never be an artist. And it crushed my dreams. It set the tone for the rest of my life. They saw my poetry, which was side by side in my portfolio with my watercolor paintings, and said, maybe there's something there. Growing up in India, being an only child, there was always an intense amount of pressure to be the best at what I did. Because if you weren't any good at it, then what was the point? If you were second best, it didn't make the cut. The point was to leave everybody behind. The point was you're in it to win it, to compete for that top medal, for that top rank, for that title, for that spot in that design institute that I wanted to be part of. And I didn't get it. And there was a lot of shame associated with that rejection. It was never enough that I tried my best, because at the end of the day, it didn't yield a result. The result that my parents wanted, the result that I wanted. And so, despite being really good at watercolors and having had no training, which is why the desire to learn came from, I decided, since I was not any good at it and these professionals who probably knew what they were talking about didn't see a future for me in art, that was not my calling. That was not what I should be doing with the rest of my life, because it was akin to wasting time. And since they said maybe there was something there in terms of writing, that they saw some potential, that's the path I should take, which is what I did. So for 20 years, I worked in a communications role at different organizations in higher ed and healthcare and philanthropy. And I wrote for alumni magazines, I edited the alumni report, the annual report, wrote speeches for the CEOs, and it was a comfortable desk job. There was nothing wrong with it. I earned the big bucks, I got time off, I had married a great guy by this time, moved here to the United States, and everything was fine and dandy. Art was no longer a part of my life because I had closed that door on it, because it just hurt so much. It hurt so much to not have that escape that art gave me. And the wounds were so deep that I just didn't feel courageous enough to open it up again and to explore and to try to heal. It was just easier to shove it all down and pretend like it never was a part of who I was. I used to watercolor when I was a kid, mostly to drown out the bickering in my household. My parents were always at each other's throats, and it was my escape. It was my way of coping with a reality that I didn't want to be part of. So I would paint these dreamy landscapes. I would just make these family portraits with happy puppies and, just what I didn't have. And it was my escape. But then I shut that avenue for myself, because I felt so deeply hurt and so rejected by that one instance when I was 19 years old that I denied myself the art. And honestly, I wasn't feeling like I denied myself anything, because life was good. It was satisfactory. It was okay. And most of us make do with what's okay. So, which is what I did. Until I got pregnant and I decided that I would quit my job and just enjoy my pregnancy, because I somehow had this feeling that life would be completely different when this baby came. And boy, was I right. She came along and she was just absolutely amazing. And as a parent, you just fall in love with what you've created, this being that is now a part of you forever. But she also came with a lot of allergies, and very severe ones. So severe that I couldn't put her down. I couldn't take her to the park. I couldn't take her to the library. We were practically under house arrest. And I was having an identity crisis, because who was I? I didn't have a professional title anymore. I was just a mom. And it is one of the most thankless jobs in this universe, being a mom. There's so much that you give and you keep giving and it never ends. And I felt myself drowning, and I felt myself needing that escape, that momentary break from reality, from all the demands that were being placed on me, and not having a support system, not being able to say out loud that I feel responsible for having birthed a broken child. It was a lot of weight to carry. And I have a very supportive husband, but he didn't understand the pain that I was going through because of the history that I had had with my own parents. And so I wanted to provide for her a nurturing, loving environment, but I was finding myself incapable of doing that. So we went and bought some tempera paint and crayons. And one of these days, when she was sitting by her table next to my kitchen, she spilled some paint on the floor, and instead of shouting at her, I found myself dipping my fingers in that paint and just kind of wiping it on paper and loving it. And she started giggling as I purposefully dropped more paint, dipped my fingers in that, and she got into it, and we were both at one point just making circles. We ended up making mud because we mixed so many colors, but that was not the point of it. The point of it was not to make anything. It was that moment of shared happiness where I forgot that I was mom. I forgot that she was my child. I forgot all the worries that came with it. And we were just playing. We were just being in the moment. That hole felt filled. It felt non-existent. And that's the day when I realized, I had packed away my paint supplies. I had packed away my brushes. I hadn't picked up any art supplies in 2 decades. That maybe that's what I needed to do to save myself. And so that's what I did. And here I am today, a mixed media artist and a creativity facilitator for women.